Hey, Paul here. I'd like to thank our premier sponsor for this episode, Cisco Systems, building a bridge to possible in their newest platform to power an inclusive future for all. For more information, go to cisco.com. Hi, this is Paul Delegro, and welcome to the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. I'm your host. My guest today is Jeremy Box, the co-founder of Brandstrum. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, Paul, thanks. So good to be here, man. I really appreciate the opportunity and you taking the time to hang out and let me be on your podcast.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. So I think we have a really interesting topic today and something that's near and dear to my heart. I have taken some marketing classes in my day, so it's something I'm always interested in. But really the topic today is branding. And I know a lot of people get the two confused, branding and marketing. And so at your company and in your travels, let's get a definition of what branding is so I can kind of level set before we get moving.
Yeah, sure. I think you're right. I think there is a lot of market confusion most of the time about what branding is versus what marketing is and how they're intertwined, because the reality is they are intertwined. And I think you don't have a good brand foundation or a good marketing platform without the other one working well for you, right? Yeah. So for me, branding really is that process that you continually go through all the time to position yourself, your business, your organization, whether you're a church or nonprofit. We work with a lot of those as well. And it's the process you go through to position yourself in your market. Capturing your unique message, your unique culture is something that you don't do one time. It's that thing, that process that you engage with over and over and over again. I like to say this about branding. Branding is like your character. It's what people say about you when you're not around. Right. And so when you think about a brand in terms of that your character and the way you live, your ethos in life and who you are, right, and the culture that you live in and from, to me, that's what a good brand is. It's a company or an organization that gets that not only for how they would position their voice to their clients or their customers, but also internally the experience they would want their employees to have with them and how they create that kind of buy-in in the culture where people actually enjoy coming to work every day, right?
That's a novel
idea,
isn't it?
That's what branding really is we want to help companies, organizations create a unique culture that is genuine to them and is consistent in the way they talk about themselves and the way they look in their market, right? So that's what branding is.
Oh, that makes sense. So, I think when a lot of people hear branding, they think, oh, it's their logo.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think you probably hear that a lot, right?
Oh, constantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people would say that they know that branding is not just a logo, but what people say they know and then how they choose to live their lives are often two very different things, right? We know things, but knowledge unapplied it really brings no value to our life. And I think a lot of times that's what we see in a lot of the groups that we work with is they get a good logo, or maybe not a good logo, but they have a logo. They slap it on some business cards, they put it on their website, maybe a marketing brochure or a sales packet or something, and then they have a brand. Well, that's great. And the way I describe this to people is your logo is not your brand. Everyone should have a logo. Right. But a good logo is subjective to whomever is viewing it anyway, right? I mean, what you think is good and what I think is good may be very different, right?
Right.
Like, oh, they have a cool logo. Well, maybe not. But your brand shouldn't be seeking to be visually attractive before it makes sure it's clear and consistent, right? And so for us, a logo isn't a brand. It's what we call a brand asset. It's one asset that goes along in a compilation of other things to help create a strong brand. It's a necessary one. It's the most popular one. It's definitely the most well-known piece of a brand, but that's not what a brand is at all. If you have a brand, a logo that, like take yours for your podcast, you have your glasses and your hat and the whole thing works because when people experience you, it's who you are, right? It's what they see. It's how you communicate. It wraps up the whole thing. And if a logo doesn't accurately communicate the experience that they're going to have with your brand, then the logo doesn't work for you in the first place. We have a saying in our company too with regard to like creativity is that we believe clarity beats creativity every single time. And we're a freaking creative company,
Yeah, exactly.
and we know that's how important it is to be clear, to be concise, and to be consistent in every single thing you do. And so we don't want to just for your look to be consistent. We want your message to be consistent,
Yeah.
and for the emotions they evoke in people to be the same, right? And so that every brand touch that they have, every experience with your company they have is a very similar one from the last one, and they get to know you and becomes familiar to them, right? So yeah, a logo is definitely not a brand. And don't let people tell you it is, because you won't build anything strong and you won't really have anything to market with either.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on something I think is so typical. Companies start up and they have their cousins, brothers, sister that does some web work.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just the way, the friends and family discount, right? And you throw a logo up there on a website, and next thing you know, you think, oh, this is my company, right?
Yep. No, absolutely right. And who can blame them, right? You're starting out, you say you got a startup. It's the passion project of your life, and you've been dreaming about this for 10 years because you've been working in a corporate job that maybe you love, maybe you hate. I've had conversations on both sides of that. Can't tell you how many times I've talked to people where they're like, man, I freaking hate my job. I just want to start my own company. And they finally get the courage to kind of step out and take that risk to do their own thing, whatever it is. And everyone knows one thing about a business is I need a logo. I need a logo. And you can go on Fiverr, you can go on Upwork, you can go on all these different websites and get someone to design you a logo for $150, $200, $250, $300, whatever, depending on the quality. And that's great. But then what? What do you do with it?
Right.
And if you're not the type of person who really knows how to brand and market yourself, let's say you may be excellent at sales, or maybe you just have an incredible product that you believe in and you're so genuine that people just like you, great. But how do you get your message to the world? How do you cut through the noise of the other people that are selling the same kind of thing? Because let me tell you, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but there are very few original ideas out there anymore today. Not to say that there's not still a need for invention or that new things aren't going to exist. That would be foolish of me to say. But most of us, when we have a business idea, we have seen a niche in how to solve a very specific problem for people. And so we're going to point at that niche. But there's going to be competitors out there. What if they say it better than you, more clearly than you?
Yeah.
I can promise you, if you give me a company without a logo and I can write marketing copy for them all day that will make them money, whether they have that logo or not. It could be my 6-year-old son could draw them their logo and they would still make money because we could make their message clear, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot of, people, having their friend and family create a logo. Great. But you have to know what to do with it. Right.
No, that's a great point, because I work for an IT company, right? And so I've had people say to me, okay, so what makes you guys so special? People, there's a million companies out there that do what you do. And I've got to go through, this is what separates us from everyone else, because we do A, B, C, and D. We have these type of technical resources on our bench. I've got to kind of walk through it. And it'd be nice if we could get that out there so that make it easy for our customers to say, hey, these guys have proficiency in this versus, they're just another VAR out there, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think absolutely, man. I think every company has to be, whether you're a business, a nonprofit, a religious organization, whatever you are, the goal is the same. The goal is to engage and win the hearts and minds of people, right?
Right.
Whether you're trying to engage them for a purpose of faith, or for donations to give towards a philanthropic cause, or just as a client, a customer, right? Somebody to buy your product or service. No matter what the base of your need is or your desire is there, we have to find a way to clearly communicate that to our base. And to me, that's what branding really does, is it starts with that internal language.
Right.
So to be able to talk to an audience base about what their need is and to clearly communicate that, you first have to really understand where you're coming from, what it is you have to offer to the world, and to be able to clearly define that, and then take that internal language and turn it external to a marketable place, right? And I see a lot of companies that they'll grow quickly because they market and sell well. But what usually happens is they grow a lot of times in an unhealthy way because they don't have a solid foundation. They grow with a high turnover ratio in their employee base because they haven't created a healthy culture which speaks to the brand every single time. And a bad brand will cause disloyalty in your customer base. But you build a strong brand. Yeah, you build a strong brand foundation where people are having the same. Take Chick-fil-A. There's a perfect, love them or hate them, it doesn't matter. They have an incredible brand. And the reason isn't because they have an awesome logo. I think it's kind of cartoonish, actually.
Right.
But they have a solid product that a lot of people seem to like. But what you get at Chick-fil-A, whether I go to one here in Houston, the Houston area where I live, or North Texas, or any other state in the country, I'm going to have an incredibly similar experience. The lines are going to move fast. The food's going to be pretty fresh.
Yeah.
And the people that work there are going to be overly nice to me. Right. Yeah. And whether I like it or not, that over optimism that they kind of bring there, God bless you, whether you like it or not, the reality is you grow to love it because you keep going back and you know what to expect. And there's a comfort we find as humans in having kind of our expectations fulfilled. And that's what a good brand does. It's that repetition that you create, that consistency of experience.
Yeah, and you create that feeling, right? Of like,
correct.
When you see something, it gives you a certain feeling that you don't even realize, right? It just kind of hits you.
I love Chick-fil-A. I can drive by there today and get hungry. I won't even be hungry. I smile because I know I'm going to be treated well when I go there, right? As opposed to maybe some other fast food places. And I just use them as one example.
Sure.
And we could probably think of 10 right off the top of the head of really solid brands that we've had great experiences with, or bad ones too.
Yeah.
You know.
So I got a question for you. So when you meet with prospective clients and you start talking to them, they think they're going to meet you for one thing, but you start talking about their culture, and they must get a little bit taken aback by that, I would think, right?
Yeah. We like anything. I mean, you're in sales, right? And so one thing I've had to learn for myself is the first job of any good business is to meet the client's needs, right? And usually their needs really start as their wants, right? They come in with something they want. Let's say somebody comes and they think they just need a logo, or maybe they need a website or whatever. Pick something. We're a creative agency. We do all kinds of stuff. But a lot of times we'll see people come to us, hey, can you refresh my website or build me a new website? Well, that unpacks a whole series of questions for us because we're going to look at the language they're using on the website. We're going to look at the logo they have for their business, the color scheme. We're going to look at all of that because to do that the best way possible, we're going to want to bring all of that into alignment for them, right? We want to make it consistent for them because we care about their brand. We care about our reputation. But a lot of times what happens in all of that is layers begin to become unpacked as we ask them questions about, why did you start your business? Yeah. What are you passionate about? Yeah. How do your employees act when they come to work every day? When we start asking questions like that, we don't really address their need for culture as much as we unpack the usual lack thereof, right? And through our questions, and it opens up the need, and then we're able to have the conversation a little more naturally without just coming in and hitting them real hard with, you need to build better culture.
Sure.
I mean, people don't respond.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right? But usually people's reactions once we hit it, it's very receptive. People are usually really refreshed by this idea of, you know what, I did intend 8 years ago when I started this business to create a company that people love to work at, that I love to work at. And we grew quickly, or we grew in a direction that because of just the way life pulls and business pulls, we had to react. Yeah. And I wasn't able to be as intentional as I would have liked to have been. And so, okay, let's go back and revisit that. Let's start putting the rest of the layers of that foundation there so that your building can be strong for decades and not just a few years, right?
Yeah. And that's just good salesmanship, like you said. I mean, if a customer calls you up and says, I need X, if you're not asking questions, well, why do you think you need X? Yeah. Again, I'm trying to be generic here, but I know in our industry,
and for me, from a sales perspective, there's two things for me happening. One, I obviously genuinely want to meet the needs of my client. Like they're coming to me for a reason, and I want to give them what they want, but I also want to give them what they need because there's a pretty high level of consultation that comes with our business. And so we have to be able to tell them like, okay, yeah, you want this, but you also need this. And then as a salesperson trying to grow a business and increase revenue, there's an upsell opportunity in every conversation I have. And so
absolutely.
I'm constantly, no doubt, I won't hide it at all, not even from a client.
Yeah.
No doubt in my thinking of the upsell, the next point of conversation is like, oh, okay, I see this want and this immediate need that I know they'll say yes to. Once they say yes to this, I've got about 5 different upsells down the funnel that I want to take them through. But I do that a lot of times after I've earned their trust on the first part.
Sure.
And then we upsell through the relationship, and it works great for us that way. That's how it works great for us.
No, and you raised another good point, and something that's near and dear to my heart. I've always felt like you've got to build that relationship first, because customers aren't going to buy from you unless they trust you and like you. And once you've earned that credibility, now they come to you and say, okay, let's build on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And us starting out as a small agency, we've grown some. We're still not huge by any stretch, but we did a lot of projects early on that we wouldn't do now. We don't need to do them now. We didn't really want to do them in the first place, but they were trust building projects for us. Yeah. We have a client that's been with us since almost the inception of our company, and we started out just all we did for them was a logo. They didn't really have one. And now 3 years later, we've kind of held their hand. They came to us for this little project and that little project, that anywhere along the way, we could have said, no, it's not really, we're not going to make any money. It's not really worth our time. But we said yes, because of the relationship that we were forming with them. And because we knew it was an investment into our growth. And now they're one of, if not our largest client. And we're seeing them grow leaps and bounds. And we do all kinds of consultation with them. And we pretty much control the whole entirety of their brand for them and kind of point them in the directions they need to go. It's become this great friendship and relationship where their board members love us. Their staff love us. And we're really helping them build a culture they've always wanted. It's great.
Yeah. And I mean, that's when selling becomes fun, when you become part of the family, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Then it's not even selling at that point. You're just helping someone. And
exactly. Yeah.
So do you quantify when you have a customers, how do you quantify that? Like, what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of gray area here, right?
You mean as far as quantify like the value of a project, or what do you mean by that exactly? Yeah.
You did X for them and they saw business increase by this amount, or is there a way to? So by rule of thumb for us, it depends on what we're doing. If we're creating a brand for them and like really helping them build out that brand and that culture, that foundation, that's not really the place that they're going to immediately start to see ROI from. That's a long-term foundational issue that you really need to get right. My dad was a home builder my whole life, and I know that if you don't have a proper foundation, you really don't have anything. And to me, that's what I tell people this all the time. A good brand is the foundation that creates great marketing and builds a successful sales team, which grows your company, right? Yeah. And so if you can think of it as that kind of a funnel, every piece working in unison, one piece needs the other. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful with just one of those pieces in place, but when you have them all working together, that's the best stuff. And so for us, the branding packages are quantified off of, the amount of work that's going to go into a time-based type of approach. We kind of know, and depending on the size of the company we're working with as well, because there's a lot of arms of reach that we'll have into those companies. Now for marketing, as far as marketing projects, because we do marketing strategy and some implementation in the marketing world as well, we usually value those projects based off of the client's goals for growth and revenue. I'll ask those questions right up front. What kind of revenue are you wanting this year as opposed to last year? What's your goal? Okay, well, I want to do $1 million. I want to do $1 million more than we did last year. We did 10 million last year. I want to do 11 million this year. Okay, great. So we're going to value our packages based off of that knowledge.
And then I have a 10x principle that I live by. So I want to give whatever a client spends on me, spends their marketing dollars on me or my company, I want to bring a 10x return to that.
Oh,
so
okay,
if it's,
good.
they spend 48 grand with us, I have to see them make $480,000 off. Right. That's the goal. That's the goal every single time. Right. That's not to say like, if you want to see $1 million worth of growth, you're going to have to pay me $100,000. I don't have $100,000 marketing packages. That's not what we do. Right. But that's a really good barometer for us to see, okay, in branding and some websites and things like that, we have some set pricing. And that's really all based out of time. And then when we move into the marketing land, we base it off of the value of growth delivery that we think we can have in that.
Yeah, that's a good metric. That's kind of where I was going with that. You set the success criteria right ahead of time, and you kind of know where you want to be and where you want to go.
Yeah. Now I want to, obviously there's promises I can't make, like this is for sure going to happen for you. But there's also promises I can make, which is if you take these time proven strategies and you implement them in the way we're building for you to, then we believe strongly you are going to see this type of growth over time. And we, I've seen it time and time again. And so I just believe it. I have zero problem saying, I'll give you 10 times the growth on a, $30,000 marketing budget. I'll give you 10 times the growth of that if you spend your money with me. And I see that regularly. So I'm happy to say it.
Yeah, no, hey, you sound confident. You got me convinced. That's for sure.
Well, I'll send you the link for payment.
Yeah, there you go. So, so for the guy that is kind of someone out there that's watching this right now and starts saying, okay, I have my own company. I may need a little bit of help here and there. And this guy, Jeremy, seems like a solid guy. I mean, what recommendations would you make to them just kind of as a first pass, besides calling you, by the way?
Yeah, well, okay, besides calling me,
no, I'm just kidding on that one.
Number one. No, for real. I would, it depends on where they're at in their life or their business. There's some variables there. But for me, a great place, if you're a business owner, if you don't have a website, stop everything you're doing and get a website. Okay. You need one. It's just a necessity today. And I think anyone listening to this will be like, yeah, that's not value. Of course we know we need that.
Yeah. Those are table stakes.
Right.
I mean, that's
right. That's exactly what it's your digital business card. You have to have it today, right? Yeah. Everyone's going to check you out there. The point of that statement though, is one of the best things you can do is find my company or a company like mine, a firm like mine, and have a web evaluation done. Not what's my traffic like? How are my SEO metrics? Those are all great. If they're going to give that to you, you should get those. But really from a marketing perspective, what's my website look like? What is is the language working? Are people clicking my call to action buttons? What is the conversion rate of my actual website? Not just traffic. Traffic's great, but you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on social media marketing and Google ads and all of the things to drive traffic to your website. And that's all you get is traffic to your website with no conversions. Your website should be the top lead generator for your company year over year. It just should. You should be able to have an effective website and connections to that website that it's constantly generating the leads you need. So I think companies like mine and many, many others offer free web evaluations, just like we do free discovery calls. Hey, give us a call. Let's talk about what you think your needs are, and we'll give you some pointers on where you could go with that, whether you use us for anything at all. And you can get free web audits. I mean, it's like, for nothing. Most people just do it for free, right? Because they want to get you in the door. It's like it's a transitional action call. So, and we do it for free.
No one wants to feel like they're nickel and dime like a lawyer, right?
Yeah. I mean, what's the point? Like we do those things. I can look at your website in 30 minutes or less and shoot you an email back or a phone call or a checklist of, here's 10 things you can do right now to make your website better. Boom. Because most of the time when I talk to people, I have a pre-built checklist of things I'll send people like, here, make these things better, because there's no sense in me looking at your website if you don't already have these things in order, because I'm definitely going to point them out to you.
Well, I think I actually thought of this. I'm a little out of order here. Well, what are the common mistakes people make? What do you see people do? And I think I know some of the answer to this, but Do nothing would probably be one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with regard to your brand, what are some of the common mistakes people
Yeah.
make? Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times I want to make sure I say this comes out the right way, right? Um, I think, yeah, you're right. Do nothing. I think a lot of times the most common mistake that people make with regard to their brand is they, for whatever reason, they start to care more about what things look like than they do about how they're saying. You know, we have a lot of sayings in here. We didn't make this one up, but this is one we say internally a lot, and it's a statement that words create worlds. Okay, and we've approached branding from this aspect of telling a story, right? We want to help you tell your story in the most unique story possible, and because the truth is that words build worlds. No matter what sphere of life you're in, we create things, we create moments, we create opportunities, we create sales, we create romances and relationships, all with our words. Now, action has to follow all of those things to continue building out that trust. But typically, trust is chosen to be given through people by the verbal interaction we have with each other, right? We had conversations about this podcast before it happened. And you trusted that I could be a decent guest. I trusted that you would be a good host.
Yeah.
And now we're having the experience of that trust, right? The fruit of that trust. And we're having that experience. Words create worlds. Words created the moment we're having right now, right? Because of your words and my words. And so that would be my biggest thing is evaluate your language. What are you saying about your company? Is it consistent and genuine with who you are and who you want to be? Because if it's not, you need to stop now. You need to reframe everything. Because I can tell you, man, like the statistics about what, especially millennials, the statistics about how they interact with a brand and the fact that I think it's like 93% of millennials will walk away from a brand if they don't feel like it's genuine and authentic.
Really?
Wow. Absolutely. It's crazy. That's crazy.
A pretty high percentage.
And it's a huge percentage. And so that should tell us a ton about the evaluation we need to have. And so my advice would be, don't worry about what you look like yet. Worry about what you say about yourself and make it genuine because then the words you use can inform the way you look. And that's how we design when we do branding projects for people. We don't do the logo first. People always want to see that first.
Sure. Yeah. Cause it's visual, right?
That's the sexy part. Finally, it's coming to life. Well, we start at the beginning and we create a verbal framework for the ethos of their company. We call it their verbal identity. And we take them through a series of questions and help them start answering those questions where they walk away with a mission statement, core values, all these things that they think they had, but then they start to reframe it in a genuine way. You're like, you know what, that was never me in the first place 10 years ago. This is actually more accurate to who I am. Or maybe it was you, but you've evolved, right? That happens. You change, your company changes, your focus changes. Well, then your language should change. And guess what? If your focus changes and your products have changed, your target market has probably changed too.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll stay speaking to an 8-year-old market when we need to update it to speak to today's market. And so anyway, that was a long way of answering that. But yeah, check your language. Don't worry about the way you look. Yeah, there's a lot of creative people in this world like ourselves that can take care of that. But none of it helps if you're not clear and genuine.
Yeah, that was great, Jeremy. A lot of good stuff there. I definitely thought I knew a lot about branding, but I guess I was in for a little bit of an awakening here with the whole culture thing. And it makes sense. I mean, just, you got to have that consistent message that's being put out there on a consistent basis to build your customer base. And it just takes time, right? I mean, just what I'm trying to do with my podcast here. Same thing. I mean, trying to create good content. You know, you picked up on the glasses and the hat, trying to get noticed a little bit, just trying to be a little bit different.
I wore my glasses
I know you're trying to copy me today. You got to get the hat on, Jeremy. Come on, will you?
Man, I don't think you want me to wear the hat, bro. I don't think I would look near as good as you.
Oh, gee, thanks. Yeah. Are there any, obviously, this is a big decision for companies when they call companies like yours. Any reading material, any books out there that you would recommend for someone to read and just to kind of start educating themselves?
Yeah, I would say two huge ones for me. And I'm just a huge fan of this guy. And so you hang around me long enough, you're going to hear me mention his name. His name's Donald Miller. And if you don't know who he is, look him up. Donald was actually kind of a Christian writer a little bit in the early 2000s, and so I was kind of introduced to his stuff through kind of a more faith bent expression. But in the last several years, he's really become a big voice in the marketing world. And he wrote a book. I think it released in 2017. Yeah, because that same year we launched Brandstrum, called How to Build a Story Brand. And I would definitely check out that book.
Okay.
And then also a more recent book he has called Marketing Made Simple. And I think first part of next year, he's releasing a book called Business Made Simple, which I really love his concept behind this. If you'll indulge me, he is actually trying to write material that would compete and outpace a college education for those who are interested in entrepreneurship and building their own businesses. So, and the material he has is like real world practical application, how to start a business, how to grow a business, how to thrive in business for a tenth of the price of what you would pay to go to college, right?
Yeah.
Not that I'm against college. I'm college educated. I have a bachelor's in finance and general business. And so it's great. I love it. I want to push my kids to go to college, but he's trying to interrupt a market that I think has probably taken advantage of people for a long time. And he saw that need. But definitely How to Build a Story Brand, Marketing Made Simple, both by Donald Miller, and another one I highly, highly recommend for those of you that need to really think through your language, especially for salespeople. Man, I think this one would be huge. And most people in sales don't think about this, but one of the most effective ways to sell to this day is through our words, not just how we speak, but how we write. And so this book is called How to Write Copy That Sells, and it's by a guy named Ray Edwards. I highly, highly recommend that. I'm actually I'm actually reading it for the second time right now. So me and my team are going through this book together, and every time I look at it, I find deeper value in it. And I frankly would read that book before the other two, just because if you're interested in marketing at all, in sales at all, or just in general and trying to grow your own business and help people help you grow that business, I would definitely read that. How to Write Copy That Sells by Ray Edwards.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, Jeremy, appreciate everything you've kind of filled us in on Absolutely. Today. Thank you for coming on the show. Any last words for the folks out there?
Yeah, sure. I just want to encourage people, that may be on the fence. If they listen to the conversation, hopefully they'll understand the power and the need of creating a successful brand foundation. But the real purpose of that to me is, like you mentioned, the culture. It's one of my favorite statements. My guys laugh at me when I say it now, is we don't copy culture, we create it. And I want that for every business owner, every organization, every small business, whatever. I want you to create a culture in your company that's so unique to you that the people that say yes to your product or your service, or yes to an employment engagement with you, are so consistently happy and loyal with a relationship with you that it creates this vacuum of happiness, right? And this vacuum of joy around your business. Because I think everybody wants to grow a business and get rich. But man, I can tell you, I've grown a couple of different businesses, not including the one I'm in now. And, I've made some money and haven't made some money, but contentment and joy, you can't touch that like we say here in Texas, with a 10-foot pole. You live a life of contentment and joy. And I promise you, if you build a successful brand, something that you're happy in, doing something you're passionate about and that's genuine to you, and you don't have to go to work every day feeling like you're putting on someone else's clothes, you just get to be yourself.
Yeah. And
then your employees get to have that same experience. I promise you that you'll be happy. You can thank me later. I'll give you that one for free. Just build a good brand, whatever it takes.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, if for the folks out there that are interested, brandstrum.com, I'll give you your company a little plug right now. I mean, you got me convinced. You got me convinced.
Right.
I'm ready to sign on the dotted line right now,
Go check it out. I'll send you a proposal when we get done.
There you go. Well, thanks again for coming on. And that's another wrap for Business Brains and the Bottom Line. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.